In this video, I will demonstrate how to make a simple ganache ready to use for your Yule log cake. So you will need 250 grams of cream, 60 grams of glucose and 350 grams of dark chocolate. So I've put the dark chocolate in the microwave just to melt it slightly, and I've got the cream and the glucose in the pan. Now the best way to get the glucose out of the pan is to get some water, dip your hand in the water and pick the glucose up, and it should fall straight off and doesn't stick to your hand. Put the glucose and the cream into the pan and then allow it to simmer. In the meantime, melt some of your callets in the microwave. So once this starts to simmer, we're going to add it into this bowl in 3 stages. So start it off on 1000 on your induction hob. Make sure the pan sits onto the induction hob. Once your cream and glucose have started to simmer, add it in 3 stages gradually into the chocolate. Should have a nice glossy ganache with no lumps of chocolate. Once your ganache is ready, you now need to put some cling film over the top to stop it spinning over. So we want this to be spreading consistency. Once your ganache is ready, put the cling film over the top and then put it into the fridge. This is how to make a chocolate Yule log. So you will need 155 grams of warm sugar. So all I've done is just put a tray of sugar in the oven just to warm that up. You will need 250 grams of whole egg and 15 grams of glycerin, which is also with the egg. So you need to bring that up to 21 degrees. You need 115 grams of soft flour and 220 grams of cocoa powder and 5 grams of baking powder. So to start with, I've got the egg and the glycerin in the bowl. And to add the sugar, so you need 155 grams of warm sugar. So that's going to bring that mixture up to 21 degrees. So make sure that your bowl is grease free before you start whisking it, and you've got no grease on your whisk. So you've got sugar, egg and glycerin in the bowl. Put your egg and sugar mixture onto the machine. Start off on speed 1 and then increase it to speed 2. So we need that to get to ribbon stage now. While we're waiting for that to come to ribbon stage, we'll sieve together the cocoa powder, baking powder and flour, and we need to do it 3 times. Then while we're waiting for the mix to come up to the right consistency, and line the trays. So make sure you're using a half tray and not a 3/4 tray. So you can cut your silicone paper in half, spray it all around the sides before you start adding your silicone paper to it. We want to make sure that we don't get any of the grease on the mixture. around the side. So we can increase the mixture to speed 3. And we want the egg and sugar mixture to double in size. Once it's reached ribbon consistency, so from like cats, by the time you get to the T, the C should have just disappeared. So that would be ribbon consistency. Now you want to gently fold in your flour, so I'm going to do it in 2 stages. So I'm going to add half of the amount of flour. So lift, gently mix in the flour, go to the bottom, fill the lumps of flour, and just break it through your fingers. Gently lift the flour to the top without knocking out too much air. If you knock out too much of the air, you'll end up with a pancake instead of a spongy Swiss roll. So just be really gentle in mixing that in. Place your mixture into the half tray. Make sure you really scrape your bowl down and get all of that mixture into the tray. Take your cracked palette knife and gently spread it across the tray. Try not to knock out any air. So this Swiss roll has been baked at 200 degrees for 10 minutes. Allow it to cool down just for a couple of minutes. Then you want to flip it out onto a piece of silicone paper. Now your ganache may have firmed up quite a bit. Just pop that into the microwave for about 30 seconds just to loosen it up so it's spreading consistency. Take off your greaseproof paper. So now you want to spread a thin layer of your ganache onto your sponge using a cranked palette knife. Start to roll your Swiss roll, so make sure you tuck in that first bit so you get a tight roll. So as you can see, I haven't topped it with sugar because we're going to cut it and then finish it with our ganache. So make sure the lip is tucked right under, and we're going to cut it to 8 inches. So using your serrated knife, you're just going to trim off the edge of your Swiss roll. So just saw it gently, keep your knife straight. So I'm just going to trim the edges off, just like that. Using your measuring tape, check that it's 16 inches. And just trim a little bit more off if it's not quite 16 inches. And then we're going to split it in half, so we want 8 inches. So saw in action. Try not to press, just saw your knife all the way through. You should get a tight swirl. Place your Swiss roll onto the board. Now if your ganache has firmed up again, pop it into the microwave for a couple of seconds. Now we're going to finish off the Yule log. We're spreading it with the ganache. So use a small palette knife for this. Go back and forth. So just paddle back and forth. The ganache around the end of the Swiss roll as well. So if your ganache starts to firm up, just put it in the microwave for a few seconds, just so it's spreading consistency. So once you've coated your Swiss roll, you can just go over it and just score in some marks so it looks like a Yule log. And then using some green and red sugar paste, I've cut out the holly leaves using a cutter, and I've rolled 3 balls for the holly berries. So I'm going to place those on as well. So once you've covered your Yule log, sprinkle a bit of icing sugar on top just to finish it off. And then you're going to place your holly leaf onto your Yule log. And that should be ready now to take a photo, and then you can send it down to the shop.